I've never seen any, it looks like a movie. I saw a large plane, like a jet, going immediately headed directly into the World Trade Center. It just flew into it, into the other tower coming from south to north.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it? I can see it on the shot.
Oh my.
Something else has
You know what? We just saw a plane circling the building.
You are looking at live pictures right now of the World Trade Centers. Again, we now have 2 passenger planes within 18 minutes of each other smashing into the World Trade Centers.
There's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Something there is about to happen, falling away right there.
Yeah, it looks like a big chunk of it has just peeled away.
One can only hope that the area has been evacuated.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're looking at a live picture from Washington, and there is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon.
Today we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
I was in 6th grade. I remember the day because I was in conflict mediation training to become a conflict mediator. And my mom was also in the program. And everyone decided to watch the videos together, and everyone was sitting in a room watching the news. And it was the first time that my mother expressed that she was scared being Muslim in America. And so as a child watching your mother be scared, you automatically get scared. So she started explaining, you know, that, I mean, they hadn't even discovered who the terrorists were yet. And right away they were saying it was a Muslim.
I didn't really know too much about it until I came home and my parents were there, and they had a somber look on their face. You know, because at school I noticed that teachers were really quiet and they were silent about it. They wouldn't talk to us about it. But when I got home, my parents were really talking, and you know, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew it wasn't good.
I was laying down in bed, and the guys woke me up, say, "Hey, man, the plane went into the building." First we thought it was an accident, until we saw the second plane went into the building. That was a tragic day for America, but it was much more tragic for the Muslim country, because everybody looked at us as fanatics.
And they said, "Muhammad, do you know what happened?" And I said, "No, another airplane hijacked. People hijack airplanes all the time, so I just hope it ends well." I said, "No, Muhammad, one of the towers in New York has been attacked, hit by an airplane." And then I paused and stopped, and one of them took me to the next room and said, "Come." There was a TV in the next room. Then I went to the next room and watched the second airplane hit the building. Now I knew what was going. Of course, just like everybody else, we did not teach our classes the rest of the day. The whole school was, we didn't know what to do. Sometimes it was even hard to know how to respond. So I responded just like all Americans. You know, it's shocking, it is sad.
In fact, the next day I went to my EMS class, and I don't think I realized how much 9/11 had affected myself and everybody around me until then, because we were, you know, here we are, and a lot of us are already in healthcare, we're firefighters, we're taking, you know, we're emergency medical services, so that's what we do. And here's our comrades, basically, who, you know, ran in to save lives who died. So not only the initial people who died in 9/11, but who are our fellow workers and brothers and sisters went in to save lives and died because of it. And we're feeling their loss. And somebody in the class said, "Oh, I can't believe these religious people, they did this religious attack." And I got teary and I said, "No, don't say that. Please don't use that language. It is not a religious attack. This is an anti-religious attack."
I remember specifically in my case, I used to play basketball with one of my neighbors up the street, and almost every day we used to play. And I remember specifically after 9/11, and I went over to his house to, you know, play basketball. There was a couple of us that would go there and hang out and play basketball. And he came outside and said that his dad wouldn't let him play with me anymore because I was Muslim. And at that moment in my life, I realized that, you know, there was something very different in the way that not only he saw me, but in the way that a lot of people saw me as a Muslim instead of as an individual of a society.
One time I got called a sand nigger by a kid, and I was so confused why he called me that. But one of my Arab friends actually explained the meaning of it, and he told me, you know, it's because of your name.
8th grade, a boy tried to pull off my scarf, and I got in trouble for punching the boy. But that had happened, and my sister also had her scarf pulled off of her all the way, and she got suspended for it because she got in a fight with the boy afterwards.
I'll have like a really nice conversation with somebody at the gate of the airport, and it happened to me more than once. And it's like, "Can I see your passport?" As soon as he sees my passport, he opens it. Oh, he sees my name, then he knows I'm an Arab, or I'm from where, or I'm a Muslim. Then he takes me aside. But 2 minutes ago, we were having a conversation, having so much fun, and everything was going well. For me, it's a little bit racism.
And for me, since I do not wear the traditional headscarf that Muslim women usually wear, you know, people don't really realize that I'm Muslim until I actually tell them. So for me personally, I have not really experienced that much, but I know of people who have, including my dad, who actually, he went through a lot after 9/11, a lot of insecurity issues. When he goes to the airport, he always gets checked or randomly checked. One time they said he was on the no-fly list, and just because they had his name mixed up with another man's name. And my dad, you know, he even shaved his beard because he was afraid of people at work like harassing him and stuff like that.
My brother, who is 6 foot tall, white, blonde hair, blue eyes, left his backpack at the Santa Fe Mall, and when he got back from the store, the area was marked off, and the bomb squad was there, and the fire department, and he went up to the man, and he was like, "Oh, this is my bag, I'm really sorry, there's nothing in it, I can take it." And the security guard was really friendly, and he told him, "Yeah, okay, you know, it's fine, let me just see your ID." So my brother gave him his ID, and he looked, and his eyes got huge, and he's like, "Your name is Ahmed? Your name is Ahmed?" And he got on his phone, and "I need backup here, his name is Ahmed, repeat Ahmed, A-H-M-A-D, Ahmed, bring backup." So then they called more cops and more security, and the bomb squad took his little backpack in a wheelchair, whatever it was, a little cart away, and the police officer's attitude completely changed. He went from friendly to, he was telling my brother, "I'll take you down, I'll take you down. If you move one step, I will take you down." And my brother was 16 at the time. He was freaked out. He just, he kept trying to talk to the officer. The officer wouldn't listen to him. They wanted to handcuff him. He was with a bunch of his friends, and, you know, his friends were fine. It was just him they were really mad at. And then they checked his backpack, and they were giving it back to him, and they told him, "Sign this paper." And my brother was like, "I'm not going to sign any papers from you. My dad's not here." And they said, "Okay, you have the right to not sign this paper, but we're banning you from the mall for 2 years." So they banned him from the mall for 2 years until lawyers got involved and talked to them, and they took his picture and they had all this information, and then when my father tried to get them to give him the paperwork back, they denied having pictures of him and having information on him, and they basically lifted the ban, but that's all they changed.
I think 9/11 did instill within the psyche of Americans that Muslims are indeed evil, which is of course not true. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that. So, I mean, after the attacks happened, unfortunately, instead of blaming a few, mentally imbalanced individuals, they, for some reason, the whole entire tradition of Islam is being blamed for it. And it did affect me. And also, I am Afghan as well. I have an Afghan background, so that affected me even more so.
Right after September 11th is people viewed Muslims differently, and there's thousands of stories of that, related to my own experiences, and it happened everywhere. It happened in schoolyards. It happened in the playground. It happened at work. It happened, wherever we were. There was a total shift in the mentality of the greater mainstream population of the United States in how we view other people, specifically after 9/11.
I think something that was an underlying issue was brought to the surface with the 9/11 attacks, because I think there was already a sense of Muslims are bad in America, and 9/11 it was like boil just popping. It was like, now here it is in your face.
One of the reasons why it's so it's spread out is because, one, because of the media, and two, because we have a group of mentally imbalanced people creating acts of terrorism across the world does not necessarily mean it's a religion causing it.
Right away, people's perception is this is a religious act. Murder is never a religious act. I don't care who says it is. It's never a religious act of any religion that I know of.
No Muslim wants to see innocent civilians get attacked. This is starting from the precedent of the Prophet himself, peace be upon him, was that you don't attack non-combatants. You don't attack people who aren't engaging you with weapons in war. That means you don't even, it's not just women and children, it's men who are staying in their homes away from the fight. Attacking a business building like this was something that was seen as atrocious by these governments in the Middle East, even the ones we call the very, hardcore Islamic governments. Obviously, they don't want this happening there either. So they were not just saying, "Oh, we, are against this." They were actually actively fighting against it in their countries. They were, they were upping their patrols, looking for these guys, and trying to make sure that this wasn't going to repeat itself from their country or in their country. And that's the thing that I'm really disappointed in our media not picking up on, or maybe they picked up on it, they didn't want to talk about it.
People who claim they're Muslim do such a horrendous act doesn't mean that they represent the whole Muslim religion. They pretty much hijacked our religion, and we want to take it back.
If you put it this way, say there are in fact 1.5 billion Muslims, 2 billion Christians, 18 million, not billion, million Jews. Okay, say that in any population, 1 in a million will be smart enough, vicious enough, psychotic enough to be truly dangerous as a terrorist. That would mean that Islam could have 1,500 truly dangerous people. Christianity could have 2,000 truly dangerous people. Judaism could have 18.
A terrorism should not be related or affiliated with any religion. It is an act of an individual, and that person is responsible for it, or individuals, and I do not think it has anything to do with religion. And I hope that this misnomer of Islamic terrorism will go away, and we hope Islam and Muslims are not affiliated anyway with this word of terrorism, quote unquote.
And the base of Islam, actually, if you look at it, and at the time of the Prophet, it was actually forbidden in a war or a battle for you to kill a child, a woman, an elderly, and even cut down a tree, burn a house. You cannot touch anybody or fight anybody unless he's a man who's wielding a weapon even.
Muslims are good people, but there are bad Muslims, there are bad Christians, there are bad Jews, there are bad people from every single faith, that does not make them representative of that faith. People can commit acts of violence in any name they choose to.
The thing about America is a lot of Americans believe what they hear and believe what they see on TV.
Media had a very important role to play in how things were perceived and what was being given to the public. Actually, it was actually thrown out to the public, and there were a lot of misconceptions and wrong about this religion which was spread. And I don't know if it was because of ignorance that the people here did not really know about the religion. That could be one factor. Secondly, I think it was this people were so scared after what had happened on this soil in the United States, which never had happened before.
I think that after September 11th, people were scared. And when you're scared, you're willing to take any information about the enemy that you can. It doesn't matter. You don't have time to look through what's true and what's false. And when you're getting paid the big bucks to have this big story about, you know, how they treat their women and this and this and this, of course, that's what you're gonna want to report. So I think that a lot of the information was false, and I wish that people had taken the time. These people who their whole career is to provide us with accurate news, I wish they had done their job more thoroughly. Taken 10 more minutes out of your day to, okay, this thing in the Quran said something about killing. Let's read 2 sentences before it to see what context it's in. But they didn't want to see what context it's in. They needed that 10 minutes to spin a story another way. So I'm disappointed in them, because how can I trust them in another situation, in another war situation? How can I rely on them when I see something, I say one thing, I've read one thing, and they're saying something that's completely different, and I know it's wrong?
There are some media outlets who are actually working very hard on distorting the image of Islam, and it's not a secret that those are everywhere. They are paid to distort the image of Islam and Muslims. You watch Fox News and you see what they do. They just everything is one-sided. Everything is just one single point of view. What they see is they want to paint an image of Americans and of others to Americans that is most of the time not true. Distortions, fabrications.
Why is Islam the one religion about which so many in America and the West censor themselves when it comes to talking about or making fun of? Is it just fear?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because they're violent, because they threaten us. And they are threatening. They bring that desert stuff to our world.
Islam is an anti-Christ religion that intends through violence to conquer the world.
If you're not under Islam, you're at war with them, and that's the core teaching.
Unfortunately, that's the picture that gets painted by people who are, you know, make it their goal to distort Islam and Muslims.
I don't think there was a lot of knowledge in America about Islam in general. Probably one of the least known about religions. So the way that the media was portraying it was a very foreign and also scary.
And we are American, we deserve the truth as well. And I think the American people should be upset. They should be upset that they were told one thing when it's a completely different thing. Islam condemns any kind of terrorist act. Islam can't even do something if there's a chance of harming an innocent person. So how is it that our Quran tells us that we're allowed to have a terrorist attack?
I think if people study Muslim history, they'll understand that Muslims are people like anyone else who have the same aspirations and the same desires for social justice and for educating their children and having a decent life. And they'll also find that Islamic society has made mistakes, just as our society has.
Muslims are just like any other American citizen. We go to work, we have children, we have families, we love to work in the garden, we practice martial arts. We're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your family, and there's really no difference between, there is no us and them. And if we have an us and them, that's when the problem is created.
There is no test to prove who is more loyal to America and who is not. America is everybody. All Americans, the majority of Americans came here from somewhere else, and they all love this country and will serve it, and it doesn't make them lesser Americans because they came later. Everybody that lives here believes in this country, and that's why they are here, and they love it, and they will defend it.
When I was a kid, we used to get told from time to time that we had to learn during the war, World War II, to distinguish between Nazis and Germans. People in the neighborhood never got used to it. We had German neighbors, they had a terrible hard time. Disgustingly so. And we still aren't good at it. You know, we're not good at picking out of a situation the people you have to worry about.
People should get to know each other. Allah says in the Quran, He put us here to get to know each other, not despise and hate each other. The Christians should not despise and hate the Muslims should not despise and hate the Christian, and the Jews should not despise and hate the Muslim or the Christian, or vice versa. We should try to get to know each other. And then once we start to get to knowing each other, we can eradicate all this extremism on both sides.
What happened with September 11th is it gave a lot of people here carte blanche to just say, okay, now we have to start the movement against Islam. And there was very little resistance to it. And that's, I think, the big difference here, is that people took advantage of this time to hit back. And these were anti-Islamic thinkers and anti-Islamic voices to begin with. They have a lot of their own personal reasons. I've studied a lot of their background stories. I know what their interests are. Some of them were in, Bridget Gabrielle, if you're familiar with her.
Around the world, we are heading straight into a wall with the clash between Western civilization and a 7th century ideology driven by hate.
Islam is pretty much, for the Eastern world, you can say, or for the Western world, to be honest, it's like a closed book. You look at it, oh, put it away. We already know what it is. I say look at it, open it, read it, see what it is, have questions about it. And coming actually from a multicultural society, for example, for Jerusalem, and living here and going to UNM, you get a lot of questions from people telling you, well, why do you do this? Why do you do that? And explaining it has always been easy. One of my personal favorite things in Islam, everything has a reason. Like, why we don't do this? Oh, because of this. Like, for example, why do we fast from sundown to sun up? Some people think we fast, it's like some people think it's crazy, they can't do it. But we fast because you need to feel how, for example, people in Somalia, how they not have any food, how they feel. So if you're holding on to that wealth and you're hungry, you feel how those people are feeling, so you start giving it away. And when you're fasting, it's not about even just not eating. You have to watch your language. You have to watch how you are. And after Ramadan, you'll notice a lot of people have changed a little bit. They become kinder. They become better. They become a different version of themselves. Like they got used to a certain kind of life. By the time the next Ramadan comes, they're already back where they started, so Ramadan refreshes them, and they're back to be the better person they used to be. That's the main idea.
Islam has clauses built into it to protect what they call fellow people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, the religions that branch off the same tree. This is not an interest of Islam, it's not an objective of Islam, and of course there are Muslims who can abuse it. But I've seen enough cases in the last few years, as well as in the long stretch of history, to know that this is not part of Islam. This is part of, you might have someone like Bin Laden maybe thinking that way, but that's not the way any seriously respected Muslim leader who's had any sway in any government anywhere it normally acts. This is not the way Hezbollah acts, even though we call them terrorists. We shouldn't throw them in the same lot as Al-Qaeda. They're union organizers, they're militia, yeah, that's true, but they also have a civic side to them. And if we just throw everyone in the same bag, we're hurting ourselves because we're losing the opportunity to reach out to people who we don't agree with, but who still have peaceful objectives and who still respect other people.
Whoever controls the media controls the population. And a scared population is much easier to manipulate and control in general. Definitely, unfortunately, our media in the United States, in the Western world, has become very much fear-based. You know, if there's an attack somewhere, they're going to run it into the ground, how it's this sect of people and it's their horrible culture, and, you know, violence is a part of their culture, violence is a part of their religion. Fear them, fear them, fear them. And it brings fear into people.
Christianity is not a target. Islam is. Islam is a target.
Many in the intelligence community that I've been speaking to say that their concern is that if it is an Islamic extremist group that has carried out this attack, that this was done because they believe that Norway was a soft target. You've had several Al-Qaeda franchises like Al-Qaeda in Yemen attempting to hit out at Europe and the United States, and they believe that they might have tried to hit Norway because they didn't think that their security was really as strong as it could have been.
Now on Sunday, the New York Times headlined, "As horrors emerged, Norway charges Christian extremist." A number of other news organizations like the LA Times and Reuters also played up the Christian angle. But Breivik is not a Christian. That's impossible. No one believing in Jesus commits mass murder. The man might have called himself a Christian on the net, but he is certainly not of that faith. Also, Breivik is not attached to any church.
The media always points out he committed the act and he was Muslim, and so within the psyche of people, they attach the two. The guy committed the act of terror because he is Muslim.
If you guys remember the Oklahoma City bombings, that was a Christian violent group that did it, but we don't see that as a religious bombing. That's our problem.
And just like with the Norwegian terrorist, how that came out immediately as a Muslim at first, and then they stopped even using the word terrorism. He wasn't even called a terrorist. It was just called an act of violence, I think. So I don't really see. I still think that Islam being linked to terrorism in the media happens quite frequently.
The idea that Muslims are terrorists would be a little bit like saying that Catholics are pedophiles. We've had a problem with clergy being pedophiles. It is real, it's disgusting, but it doesn't define the religion, I don't think. I don't think that the terrorists who are real define the religion. And I point out to people who are nearer to my age that in the 1980s, just about all the terrorist groups were leftist. Now they're almost all religious. It's like it's a dark carousel where one horse goes up, for a time, and then it goes down and is sensible, and another horse goes up and does the terror stuff.
Are we going after criminals who have violated our laws as well as the laws of Islam, or are we attacking everyone we don't agree with? If we attack everyone we don't agree with, we're not going to last very long as a country. And when we look at how much we've ruined our economy just with these wars, how thinly we spread ourselves, and how much we owe to China now because of this, there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this. There's so much more to be gained by not considering everyone you disagree with an enemy.
Now, Beale, I want to start off with you. We understand that there's a protest that is planned today that you're leading. What does your group hope to accomplish today, and why are you against the building of Cordoba House, this Muslim and Cultural Community Center?
Well, Ground Zero is a war memorial. It's a burial ground. And this mosque is offensive, it's humiliating, it's demeaning to the 3,000 innocent victims that lost their lives. Without Islam, this attack would never have happened. And we are rallying at Ground Zero at the corner of Liberty and Church to show the public outcry, and we're asking that they be sensitive and tolerant and responsive to this overwhelming dissent to this mosque. The latest polls show that America is against this mosque to build a shrine to the ideology that inspired these jihadist attacks.
Join the fight to kill the Ground Zero Mosque. Go to GOPtrust.com. Paid for by National Republican Trust PAC, which is responsible for the content of this message.
You may know, you may not know that 200 years ago in New York City, they would not permit the construction of a Catholic church within the city limits. It was considered something that wouldn't be tolerable to the community. So the Catholics built Old St. Peter's outside the city limits, and there was a demonstration that attacked the place one night because the Catholics were having some secret gathering. It was a Christmas Eve midnight mass, which nobody in New York knew about then. It was Catholics, it was night, there were lights, it was secret for them. They attacked the place and beat a lot of people up. We took a long time to assimilate a lot of people. The Massachusetts Bay Colony had the death penalty for Quakers and Roman Catholics, just for entering the colony. That's a long time ago. But I mean, we've gone to that to a point where we're now looking at Islam as a religion that we're trying to come to terms with. We're doing a clumsy job in general, but a lot of people are trying very hard on both sides to make it come together better, with a little bit of humor even.
I find there are many more students who want to do graduate work in Middle East or international affairs or Islamic history. Those people, I think, are valuable to our society because they will open doors and communication. But I think also there's a lot of people who keep their minds closed and use any excuse to belittle or criticize Islam. So it's a mixed bag. I'm a little bit hopeful because I see a lot more students who want to really understand and make their career based on building a bridge.
They should learn about Islam from Muslims. Like, come to the Islamic Center and talk to Muslims. Or if you have Muslims in your class, ask them questions. Like, don't rely on the media to give you the right information about Islam, or some book that's like why I'm not a Muslim, but read books written about promoting the faith, or ask a Muslim a question.
My advice to all of those Americans who would like to get to know Muslims better is to deal with them, talk to them, interact with them. They are here to stay. This is their country, just like everybody else. Get to know them. They will be your neighbors, they will be your co-workers, they will be your associates, your teachers, your students. Get to know them. Learn from your first-hand experience, not from a media outlet that is doing nothing but distorting Islam and Muslims. And when you interact with people, learn their culture and their language, there's a much better chance that you're going to understand them, even if you do not agree with them.
And that's what I'm glad to be a Muslim. I'm proud to be a Muslim. In America, out of America. Whatever you think about me does not matter. But it wouldn't matter that I treat you with respect and with kindness. And if you don't want to treat me with respect and kindness, I keep moving on. I pray for you that one day you will respect me with respect and kindness.
For every action, for every prayer, for every move, for everything we do, there's a reason. Like, I would suggest for everybody just to read about it, understand it before you judge it. Like, you take a class at UNM like me, and you can't say this is a hard or easy class until the end of the class. You're like, okay, that was a tough one, or that was an easy one. You didn't judge it by just looking at the title of a class. But that's what's happened to me. Like, personally, as I told you, you just go somewhere, oh, you're a Muslim. You've already been titled for something. You've been profiled. And for the past 30 to 40 years, That's what we all been fighting for, which is be equal.